Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys 1/6 scale Star Wars figure unboxing and review. Today we're taking a look at the Return of the Jedi Stormtrooper with Death Star wall backdrop. Now I got mine at a discount from Pop Collectibles. As always, do your own research, make sure you are comfortable before buying. I have popped a link to their site in the description below, along with the discount code Justin's Collection, for 5% off your order if you do decide to buy from them. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button, so you're notified as soon as a brand new Hot Toys Star Wars figure review goes live on the channel. As for the box art, while it is done in the typical Hot Toys Star Wars style, the box is a little bit taller than usual. And they've included a subtle image of the Death Star wall in the background behind the main image of the Stormtrooper. We've got a metallic foil Star Wars logo and a glossy wraparound banner with the Death Star in the background and some figure photography off to one side. On the side of the box, more figure photography, this time showcasing the Death Star wall as well. Do watch out for this, it's not stuck down, so when you're trying to insert the box back into the plastic sleeve it comes in to protect it for storage, if this gets caught, it may tear off, and you don't want to damage the wraparound banner, so like I said, be careful. And then around the back, all of the boring stuff. Warnings, legal information, and Hot Toys store locations. Okay, so clearly they are trying to tell us something with this slipcover, that we need multiple Return of the Jedi Stormtroopers. I'm actually inclined to agree with them this time, because I do think original trilogy just glossy white Stormtroopers look better in numbers. And now that they've reissued this guy, this is the perfect opportunity to do a little bit of army building. Nothing crazy, just maybe two of these figures to flank either Vader or the Emperor, or to have them dotted around battling rebels in the collection. First in-hand impressions? So far so good. What we are going to do now, though, is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Starting off with the display base first, or should I say part 1 of the display base, because we will get to the Death Star wall backdrop in just a second. Now the bottom part is just a typical Hot Toys Star Wars rectangular base. Around the front it says Star Wars and Stormtrooper on the etched nameplate. Then up top they have gone for a more bluish grey colour this time for the flooring. And there are some washes in the crevices, plus this speckling over the top, which adds a bit of grit and texture. For the crotch grabber, it's a wider grip than usual to accommodate his bulky Stormtrooper armor, and it's adjustable up and down. You will get a much better look at this later, it's just that we're set up to look at accessories now, so the camera's zoomed in. This thing is bloody massive, and it needs to be. It needs to be taller than the Stormtrooper so it sticks out over his head and it sets the scene properly. Now it is currently turned on. If you want to turn it off, there is a printed cardboard piece around the back, by the way, so it's detailed all the way around. You slide up the cardboard panel, and you can flick the switch. It is powered by 3 AAA batteries. There's the battery compartment right there. Now, do be careful when you're sliding the cardboard panel back down, because the corners do like to catch on the little rails that hold it in place. Speaking of holding it in place, this thing is secured to the base by these clips, and it is super sturdy. Once you have it on there, this thing isn't going anywhere, and there's a foot around the back, so it's nice and balanced, it's not going to lean. This is honestly probably my favorite Hot Toys diorama display base combo. Seeing as though he's just a regular old grunt Stormtrooper, it makes sense to me that he only comes with an E11. No crazy fancy weaponry, just the basics. It is painted in gunmetal, then there is a lot of silver dry brushing over the top. And I think this thing looks $1,000,000. All the texture stands out, the rivets, the little greebly bits and pieces. It's awesome. You can extend out the stock if you want to, but it droops down. I don't know how functional that would be as an actual stock, so for me, I'm going to leave it collapsed up under the barrel. Compared to the episode 4 version of the E11, There are a lot of differences, and I wasn't aware how different they were because I've never compared them side by side. The box is missing, the rail is gone, the scope is a different shape, and the front part for the barrel is significantly chonkier on episode 6. And they've added in all of this stuff at the back that's simply not present with the blaster on the left. And lastly, a full array of Stormtrooper hands. The gloves are painted in this satin, almost matte black, making them look like rubber gloves, whereas the armor plates are done in high gloss and there's some weathering on them. We do get 2 closed fists, 2 trigger finger hands, one for either side, and the fingers are quite pliable, so getting the blaster into his hand shouldn't be a massive challenge. But only one splayed out finger hand, which is in keeping with all of Hot Toys' previously released Stormtroopers. And last but not least, 2 open palm hands already installed on him out of the box. What we are going to do now, though, is get the Episode 6 Stormtrooper himself out here. Standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. Let me tell you a little story. It'll be a quick one, I promise. When I was a kid, my friends and I, we would collect Star Wars figures. And they wanted Han Solo, and Chewie, and Luke Skywalker, and Anakin Skywalker, and Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon Jinn, and Darth Maul. And I love those figures too, but what I really wanted were Stormtroopers, Scout Troopers, and Snow Troopers. I don't know why, but I was obsessed with these darn things. And I didn't want the crazy, wacky designs. I wanted a simple, plain, glossy, white Stormtrooper. Fast forward to today, if I knew back then that I would eventually end up with this beautiful looking specimen, this plain white 1/6 scale super accurate Stormtrooper, I would have been one happy kid, and I am one happy collector. This guy is fantastic. He isn't without his flaws, though. We do have to discuss some of the weird changes that George Lucas and the design team made to the Stormtrooper armor for Episode 6. Up close and personal, kicking things off with his bucket. This is the exact same sculpt that we got originally in 2019 with the original Episode 6 Stormtrooper. Some people like the Return of the Jedi mold, and some people don't. We'll get to how I feel about it in just a second. At the very least, the sculpt work and paint applications are on point. We've got the grey panels for his ears, the blue lines down the mandibles, the silver grille details in the ports around the front, the mouth looks great, and the translucent green eye lenses. They are properly rounded, they are real bubble lenses, and the green is much more saturated compared to a Rogue One Stormtrooper helmet, for example. But I'm pretty sure you can see the difference here, right? The nose area on the Return of the Jedi sculpt is significantly bigger. And I just think that makes this helmet look way goofier. Even compared to A New Hope, the one on the left, to me, screams original trilogy Stormtrooper much more than Episode 6 does. I still, to this day, don't know why they changed the design for Episode 6, but they did, the figure is accurate, and this is what he looks like. Another interesting change they made for Episode 6, this time with the armor, is that for certain pieces, they have got these raised edges all the way around. It almost reads as though the armor plates were vacuum formed and then they simply forgot to trim off the flashing around the edges. It's probably not what happened, it's just how it reads to me personally. At least it's not on all of the armor plates, just the chest front and back, the ab section front and back, and the diaper piece. Now he still retains the box with the circle and the lines, and we've got the rib detail for the straps over the top of the chest armor. The belt is done in the same way as the A New Hope Stormtrooper, meaning it is very frustrating to work with. It slides around constantly, and this canister does not want to sit in position. It's quite easily removable, in fact. You can bend these clips in, they are real metal, and then it might not fall off as often as it would if you left them how they come out of the box. Just mess around with it and maybe dial in the pose first, then pop on the canister, because this thing has fallen off way too many times already for me. I haven't mentioned it yet, most of the armor plates are weathered. One of them isn't, though. The ab section. This is left completely clean, and I don't know why. If you're weathering literally everything else, including the helmet, the belt, the crotch plate, all of it, why not weather the ab section? Just a little bit of speckling would have tied the entire look together. Doesn't ruin it for me, and you can move the belt up anyway, so it sits close to the chest armor, and then that weathering picks up the slack for this piece. It's just a very strange choice. I would have liked to have seen a bit of speckling on this too. The sculpt work is sharp for everything. The chest plate does flare out at the bottom, but then you have the very well-defined pec armor up top. And all of these armor plates are free-floating. Some of them more than others, like the forearm guard does like to move around a lot. So you will have to constantly keep adjusting everything and futzing to get this guy to look as good as possible. Okay, who goofed up in the costume department for episode 6? Because they not only flipped the holster from the left side to the right, but now it's backwards. So his E11 has to be inserted into the holster backwards, which is so freaking goofy and very strange. But it is accurate to episode 6, so like I said, someone in the costume department obviously stuffed it up, and by the time someone probably noticed, it was way too late to change it at that point, so they stuck with it, and this is what we ended up with. Now, when you install the E11 in the holster, just make sure you're not catching this piece of leather behind the trigger guard. It's supposed to go in front. Then you can bring this strap over the top. It's magnetic. It'll sit in position. The body underneath the armor is padded strategically in certain areas to try and bulk him up a little so there's more friction so the armor plates don't float around too easily. But even then, you can still adjust them if you want to. Then we've got this just fabric black bodysuit that's nice and stretchy over the top of the body. This is a figure that you can pose the shit out of. Don't worry about creasing or damage. Go crazy with the posing on your Stormtroopers. Now, it is an asymmetrical design down here for the legs. One side has the added detail attached to the thigh plate, whereas on the left side, this panel is sticking up over the top of the thigh armor. It's attached to the calf. We've got weathering, dirt and grime washes in the crevices, and the same thing can be said for the boots. They did ditch the black soles, which I don't love. It's some added contrast that I think is sorely missing from this Stormtrooper design. On the underside, there is some sculpted detail for the tread, and there's weathering under here as well. For a quick side-by-side comparison, on the left, the new Return of the Jedi Stormtrooper, and on the right, the original Return of the Jedi Stormtrooper. This reminds me of that Office meme. Corporate needs you to find the difference between these two pictures. They are, in fact, the same picture. The only real difference is in the way they're painted. The new one, for some reason, has more prominent weathering on the armor, and the armor is slightly more yellow tinted compared to the original. You'd think that would be reversed, though, because the OG has been out for a while, white plastic usually yellows. Not the case, he's a much brighter white compared to the new 2.0. Whoa, I was not expecting the Scout Trooper to be this tall. He dwarfs the Stormtrooper. In my display, he's always on his speeder bike, so it's not a massive issue. If you do, however, want to have them standing together, this is what that looks like. Had to adjust the camera for this absolute unit. It's Rogue One Darth Vader. I was planning on comparing this Stormtrooper to the Episode 6 Vader by Hot Toys, but at the time of filming this video, that figure hasn't released yet. So I went with Rogue One. As you can see, Vader just destroys the Stormtrooper in terms of height, which is exactly as it should be. If you wanted to pick up two Stormtroopers and then have their Death Star walls behind them and Vader with them flanking him in the collection, I reckon that would look pretty dope. Going over articulation, starting off with his helmet. It's on a double ball peg and an articulated neck. Combined, looking forward to there, looking up to there, swivel and pivot side to side. His arms will go out to there, and the shoulder pads are on elastic straps, plus they tuck up underneath the chest armor for a little bit more range. Going forward and back on soft ratchets, butterfly joint at the shoulder that hinges up and down. Swivel at the bicep, double bend at the elbow on ratchets, and do make sure that you have aligned this forearm guard properly so the cutout is facing forward. For the wrist peg, it's a hinge and swivel. So the chest plate and the ab section and the diaper piece, they're all separate, so do make sure that you're not putting too much pressure on them when you're crunching him forward to there. Going back further, but it does get quite gappy, you can use the belt to hide it though. Swivel and pivot side to side. His legs will go forward to there. You can rotate the thigh armor, and then they'll go a little bit further. Going out to there, swivel at the upper thigh. Double bend at the knee on ratchets. If you want to get a bit more out of it, you can tuck this lower piece of armor underneath the thigh plate, and then you'll get 1 or 2 more clicks. And lastly, a very long double ball peg for the ankles. Good for forward and back, swivel, as well as heaps of ankle tilt. Moving on to the 3 cool and 3 annoying things. The first annoying thing is this belt design was never good. It's been a headache throughout the entire video. I've constantly been adjusting it, the fabric part has been slipping in between the armor plates, and this piece has been falling off constantly. I get it, it's probably screen accurate, it's just that sometimes things don't translate super well to 1/6 scale, and just between you and I think this is one of those things. The second annoying thing, and please don't hear what I'm not saying, I love the weathering, I think it looks great. But part of me also wishes it wasn't here, because we've been there, done that. The original version of this Stormtrooper mold was also weathered. So I was hoping with a 2.0, they were going to try something different, give us something that we've not seen before, an Episode 6 Stormtrooper with brand new looking, pristine condition armor. And considering he comes with a Death Star wall, and typically speaking on the Death Star, Stormtroopers don't look this weathered, it would have made sense in context with the diorama backdrop as well. The third annoying thing is something that y'all mentioned in the comments section of my Shadow Trooper review, that the backdrop really should have been USB-C powered. Now, I like the AAA batteries because you can use rechargeable ones, lithium ones that aren't going to leak, and the batteries are going to die long before you burn out the LEDs. Whereas if this was USB powered, yes, you could transfer the power through connectors on the sides when you link them up, but the LEDs might burn out if you have this thing powered on all the time. So I would have liked to have seen USB-C. It is an annoying thing that it's not here, but batteries I don't think are the end of the world. First cool thing is if you happen to have the Death Star wall that came with Stormtrooper Disguise Han Solo, or this Stormtrooper originally from back in the day with the 1.0, you can remove this clip on the side and you can actually connect these Death Star wall panels up. The only complaint I have is I want more of these darn things. Hot Toys, please consider selling these separately. The second cool thing, while the results of my very rudimentary smell test may not be perfect, I think this holster is made of genuine leather. The third cool thing is, for as iconic as original trilogy Stormtroopers are, we don't get them very often, and generally when they sell out, they do go up in price relatively quickly. So I am glad that we now have another chance to either army build or simply pick one up if you missed him the first time round or you weren't collecting back then. Wrapping up on the Episode 6 Stormtrooper. It couldn't be more straightforward. It's a plain white original trilogy Stormtrooper. But it's also not perfect. This is based off the Episode 6 design, which I feel is the worst looking interpretation of a Stormtrooper. The weird helmet shape, coupled with the extra flashing on the armor, and the belt sagging quite low at the front, making him look like he has a pot belly, and flipping the holster around so the blaster is reversed. All of that stuff means that I hate this guy, right? No. I don't. This is like a time capsule of Stormtrooper design. It's not the perfect quintessential one, but it is the perfect quintessential episode 6 Stormtrooper. I hope that makes sense. What I'm trying to say is, I like to represent all of the design iterations for troopers and characters in 1/6 scale in my display. And this is as accurate as it gets to episode 6. It's not Hot Toys' fault that the design team made the choices they did back when they made the movie. They captured the look perfectly, they translated it to 6 scale, it can pose well, it comes with the Death Star backdrop. I don't know what more you could ask for a return of the Jedi Stormtrooper. I know I keep stressing that, but this might not be the iconic look for you. It's going to be down to personal preference at the end of the day. If you have a hankering for a Stormtrooper from Episode 6, or you actually like this design, now's as good a time as any to pick up a couple of these before they're sold out, because when they do, 9 times out of 10 they do get more expensive on the aftermarket. Now, I got mine at a discount from Pop Collectibles. As always, do your own research, make sure you are comfortable before buying. I have popped a link to their site in the description below, along with the discount code Justin's Collection, for 5% off your order if you do decide to buy from them. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button, if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video.